Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to be covering the new Psychic Awakening Faith and Fury book. So first thing I should mention is the lights are currently a wee bit out at the moment, and we're a bit worried about that, but ultimately we're very keen to get out our review on this and all our thoughts on it. And at the end of the day, you're probably just listening to me about the details that do come in with the book, so don't worry about the lighting, pretend it is okay. Now, I feel I should also explain what I'm going to really cover in this book now. I am going to look at, when it comes to rules predominantly, there's 3 stages to really break it down in. And this is the segment that really applies to the Space Marines, the Black Templars supplement, and then of the end section is the Chaos Space Marines. Now, in these 3 sections, just to let you know what you truly are in for, is that the Space Marine and Black Templar sections are going to be quite a bit smaller. Simply put, because they are quite small. And when you've just got the new codex for Space Marines, this does add a wee bit to it, but so much was covered in that codex as it is. And then Black Templar is similar to the supplement. However, we see with Chaos Space Marines, I went in with trepidations on. I know that they're not fixed in Legion traits, etc. There's still a few stuff that needs to be fixed. But the stratagems and warlord traits and relics that you get in this book for Chaos are some of the best I've seen, because I've reviewed a few books now, and they are truly, truly good, and most of this review is going to be discussing them, because many books would be absolutely envious of the tools that have been given to the Chaos Space Marines in this one. Not to say there isn't anything for Space Marine 1 in this one, but my goodness, a lot of it will be spent on Chaos Space Marines. It's also a bit biased because I don't play Space Marines, I play Chaos Space Marines. Closest I get to Loyalist is probably Admech and Custodes, but Chaos Space Marines, my goodness, there is a lot to talk about. So let's go into a wee bit on this. I'll begin just by quickly skimming the narrative. Now, honestly, I did just skim it. I only had a few hours to cover this and Adeptus Sororitas, so I needed to make a wee bit of cuts. But what I've seen when I was skimming it is that one of the first things you will notice, is that there is a lot of the talk about, faith and everything. And with that, there's mention of Logar, the demon Primarch of the Wordbearers. So all those people who are going, oh my goodness, Fulgrim's been name dropped, more than most of our demon Primarchs. Could Fulgrim appear? Well, now we have Logar again mentioned here, but I don't think he is really sort of, I could be wrong, so I did skim it. He's not so much doing what's going on here. It mentions quite heavily that one of his subjects, Cor Faron, which I believe is a Chaos Space Marine, very integral to the Horus Heresy, is actually causing a lot of the problems in the storyline. And it's very interesting to see such a key character from the Horus Heresy back in it 10,000 years later, possibly causing problems. As I did say, I did skim it, but it's very interesting to see, very much when they're talking about the Faith and Fury, it is of course mentioning Logar, which seems a bit appropriate. Anyway, so let's go into the rules as such, because that's kind of where everyone is wanting to focus on. When it comes to the Space Marines, there's a focus of upgrading characters, but it's much more of the supportive ones, your chaplains, your tech marine, your librarian, etc, etc. None of this, I would say, is competitive or, competitively game breaking. There might be combinations people are going to go absolutely through this and go through all supplements and try and combine something, but when I look at it, obviously, when I compare it to the Chaos Space Marine one, there is nothing I'm going, wow, that's sort of adding to it. Like making the next sort of segment in the meta breaker, because Space Marines already have a lot of tools as it is. And they did a fantastic job, the Space Marine Codex. I think it is a huge and beneficial upgrade. So it adds a lot more options to you, and maybe more into your playstyle that you'd want to go with. You start off by having chapter lieutenancies. Now these are basically lieutenancies for your apothecary, for your chaplain, if they are in a detachment that is entirely made of a certain chapter. So if you're entirely a detachment of White Scars, you get this lieutenancy. And I believe by rules written, this this lieutenancy on top of your other one. So usually it says, you know, one lieutenancy. I believe that, you know, it allows you to know this one and another one depending on how many you can know. So that's really good to have, you know, just to read out the rule on this one. If your army is all battle forged, all chapter chaplains in a Space Marine detachment other than super heavy auxiliary, no lieutenancies from the respective chapter. This is in addition to any other they know, so long as every unit from your detachment is drawn from the same chapter. So, and then it goes into successor explanation. So that would suggest to me, I think, you do get this one on top of them, so it's nice to have the options. The standout ones, I'd probably say, is White Scars, which is, if this lieutenancy is inspired, then when resolving attack made with a melee weapon by a model in a friendly White Scars unit within 6 inches of this model, you can reroll the wound rolls. Always good to be able to have abilities to reroll wound rolls. Now it is obviously melee attacks, so which, you know, chaplains are pretty much going to be in there. And if it's White Scarred, you're probably going to be on a jump back. I don't know if chaplains can take bikes. Probably they can when they go into index mode. It depends, but it's very handy to have, you know, sort of if you take them in a jump pack, etc. Then yeah, you know, you can use that one. That one's really good for combat. The other one I saw as well that really took my eye was Imperial Fists, Fortress of Resolve. If this lieutenancy is inspiring, then when resolving an Overwatch attack made by a model in a friendly Imperial Fist unit within 6 inches of this model, a hit roll of 5 or 6 scores a hit. Now David loves to turtle up, you know, sit in a bunker and go Imperial Fist mad, you know, shoot everything, get loads of buffs, etc. with all his Prime Maris. So I think that's going to be quite a good one in case I try and do any charges in there. He might go, I'm going to prepare them by having much better Overwatch. So I think those, of the ones I saw there, they're all the ones that really caught my eye. There's the Raven Guard one, which allows you to essentially fall back and shoot. And if you've got the fly keyword, you can also charge when you fall back, then recharge. And that one's okay. The rest of them are fine. There might be other combinations people see. But generally, it's really nice to have them. If you really want your Legion to get more and you like chaplains, then this is a nice addition to them. After that, we are looking at the sort of upgrading your heroes and how to get the most of them. This comes with the Master of Sanctity, Master of the Forge, Chief Librarian, Chief Apothecary, Chief Ancient, Chapter Champion. You know, you get some upgrades for them as well. Generally, not the best. I've not been too impressed with them on first impressions. Obviously, people may find combinations that work out better, but there's a few stand out on them as well. I like the Master of Sanctity because it allows you to do 2 abilities with your lieutenancies. So I think you know one additional one. This model knows 1 additional lieutenancy from the lieutenancies of battle and can recite 1 additional lieutenancy at the start of the battle round. You can only use your stratagem once per battle, so there can't be 2 of them. And I think, you know, that's really handy. It allows you to combine a lot of the lieutenancies to really make lots of powerful units. I know there's ones that add to hit and I think add to wound, but it's only the nearest unit to them when you're shooting. I think that could be quite an efficient combination. That one I think was pretty good. Master of the Forge was pretty good as well. Basically, you can do it to your Tech Marine. That is not a named character or Tech Marine Gunner. They get the Master of the Forge keyword. When this model repairs a model using its Blessing of Messiah, that model regains 3 wounds instead of D3. You can only use the stratagem once. So it just means that every time you do repair, you're going to be repairing 3, no questions. And that for 1 command point, that seems not bad to me. It just gives you that guaranteed repair of 3, 3, 3, 3. And that can be the difference of efficiency tables or vehicles just staying in the game and really hampering your opponent. Also to say, you know, each of these also get Warlord Traits, they get a Relic and on top of them as well. And one I think that really stood out for the Master of the Forge was they had the Warlord Trait Master of the Machine. When resolving attack made by a friendly chapter vehicle within 6 inches, you can add 1 to the hit roll. So essentially having an aura ability to go, right, cool, all the vehicles around me, +1 to hit. That's going to be really good. Predators in the back, all of them getting 2s to hit. That's really going to make people think, you know, if you are taking battlefield stuff, that could be very, very deadly. Another one is Warden of the Ancients. Add 1 strength and attack characteristics of friendly chapter dreadnought models whilst they're within 6 inches of this warlord. I don't really see Tech Marines moving on forward with dreadnoughts if they're planning to get into combat, but I think it's actually quite cool. So that one sort of stood out. Generally when it comes to these Space Marine ones, you know, there is some cool stuff on them, but it's just really fulfilling parts of the Space Marine Codex, adding a wee bit more flavour to your characters, optional stuff that isn't as essential. So we come to supplement Black Templars. Part of me is a bit cruel that they didn't get their own supplement book. I thought, you know, they're such an iconic force that, you know, although they may be a successor, they have such a strong history and everything, and they're very, very different to any other force. So it seems a bit strange that they didn't get a supplement book. But, you know, on one part it means, you know, that you've got to buy a Psychic Awakening book and the Space Marine Codex rather than having to possibly buy all three. So swings and roundabouts there. You might save you money on that one, I guess. So in terms of rules, we'll cover them. They've got some cool wee bits there. They've got the Knights of Sigismund, if I'm pronouncing it right. Obviously he was, I think, the first chapter man. You know, he was basically a knight that swore up, you know, I can't remember his one exactly. Very, very iconic when it comes to 30k lore. But basically named after him, which is absolutely cool. And this is the one we saw, which was whilst an Assault Doctrine is active when resolving an attack made with melee weapons by Black Templars, with his ability against a unit that is not a vehicle, in a turn in which they made a charge or performed heroic intervention, an unmodified hit roll of 6, scores a hit and a successful wounds the target. Do not make a wound roll. I mean, like this, so your standard bonus for Marines is one of the few, I think, other than maybe White Scars, that starts in the assault phase, and this is one of the hardest ones to essentially pull off. It takes a few turns to take into effect, and I think this would have been awesome if it did affect vehicles as well, so that all hits in combat, essentially if you score 6 wounds, would be really, really good. Certainly not the strongest, but it kind of makes sense when you're going to this crusading idea. Next up, we've got Lost Librarians, which is librarian units cannot be taken for Black Templar chapters. Makes sense because they don't like their witches and stuff. And Chosen Champion, the chapter champion stratagem, which is in here, cannot be used to affect Black Templar units, mainly because they already have their own champion, being the Emperor's champion. Let's speak about these units. So, healthy amount of units in here. You've of course got High Marshal Helbrecht, the Emperor's Champion, Chaplain Grimaldus, Cenobite Servitors, and Crusader Squads. So I'm just going to speak about them very, very quickly. You know, I really like Helbrecht. Now, when his sword allows him to basically, when they make a charge move or heroic intervention, get D3 extra attacks, giving them a possible chance of 8. He's got his Melted Gun, Sword of the High Marshal, which is quite nice. He's Chapter Master, so all those rerolls, because rerolls are awesome. Crusader of Wrath adds +1 strength to all Black Templar models within 6 inches of him, including himself, making him strength 6 essentially, which is really nice. Generally, not a bad character. Chapter Master is good, could be a healthy amount of attacks. Generally not bad, maybe a little bit expensive in points. You know, I think he's coming in 150 odd or something, but generally when it comes to Chapter Masters, when usually you'd spend, I think, 2 command points in that, you're automatically getting the rule. It's quite nice to have that one. You can get loads of rerolls for it. The Emperor's Champion is an absolute solid jeweler for his points. He's actually particularly cheap. Obviously, you know, he doesn't offer any buffs to really anyone around him, but if they do get in combat, especially with characters, they can absolutely do a horrendous amount of rerolls and damage and stuff. I think it's basically they get rerolls upon rerolls, and then they've also got -1 to hit in combat against them. So the Emperor's Champion really does come out as quite an interesting unit. It's obviously designed for combat, not for buffing units, but it's very, very cheap. Yeah, it's an HQ choice. Chaplain Grimaldus, if you're going into combat with Black Templars, which obviously you probably will, then he will probably do you quite well. He's got Rule Unmatched Zeal. When resolving attack made with melee weapon by a model in a friendly Black Templar unit within 6 inches of this model, on an unmodified hit roll of 6, you can make 1 additional attack with this against the same unit using the same weapon. So that buff is quite nice if you are going to be throwing lots of attacks in combat. Grimaldus, I think, will do you quite well. Cenobite Servitors are, yep, they're okay. And Crusader Squads. I won't lie, I just don't get these guys. I guess in a way they're a bit like chosen for chaos in some way, except except they're troops. You can kit them out a whole bunch of ways with equipment, special weapons, close combat weapons, etc. Where chosen are maybe more like the elite of the units, then these are sort of the training the initiates to get out on the crusade and fight, and sort of learn by doing in some way. They're iconic, they've got away. I think some people are going to probably have a look in, see if they can make interesting ways to make them work. They're iconic, that's one of the things about them, so it's quite interesting to see them there, but they still work the same way as before, is that there's initiate, neophyte, sword brethrens. You get one sword brethren and initiates, and then you can take neophytes with them, and then you can take initiates as well. It's a strange one, and yeah, that's all I can say on that one when it comes to Crusade. There's nothing that's really jumped out at me on those ones. So instead of them getting psychic abilities, which is pretty much standard for most of the supplements, they went, here's a psychic discipline. Black Templars are obviously not going to get that because they don't get librarians, but they do get their own litancies, Litancy of the Devout. Where all the other chapters get one extra litancy, they get a whole extra page. And this sort of makes sense for them. So, when looking at them, ones I saw, there was one that really stood out, Psalm of Remorseless Persecution. If this litancy inspiring, then when resolving an attack made with melee weapons by modeling a friendly Black Templars unit within 6 inches of the model, reroll wound rolls of 1. And I always say, especially when it comes to Space Marines, it's a lot harder to get reroll wounds. Very easy to get add to hit, add to reroll hit, but to reroll wounds is a bit more difficult. So if you can get a buff that allows reroll wound rolls of 1, very, very good for Black Templars. In terms of Warlord traits, honestly, none of them stood out to me, which was a bit of a shame. They do very much focus on combat, and none of them sort of went, that looks really good. Stratagems, some stood out that I thought that would be quite handy. We have Abhor the Witch, which is used to stratagem in your opponent's psychic phase. When an enemy psyker model manifests a psychic power within 24 inches of Black Templars unit from your army, after the Deny the Witch attempts have been made, roll 1d6 on a 4+, that psychic power is resisted. So that one's kind of snatched right out from the World Eaters right there, and yeah, they had it first. There is mentioned here in this book in a different way, Scorn the Sorcerer I think it's called, but it's just interesting. It is a very useful one, and I think it absolutely makes sense when it comes to Black Templars, and it adds a way for a bit of psychic defense. Next up is the Emperor's Will. Use the stratagem in your movement phase when a Black Templar infantry unit from your army advances. Until the end of this turn, models from the unit can still shoot with their pistol, and the unit can still charge. So it allows you, one command point to be able to shoot your pistol and charge the one essentially being charged. It says use this in your movement phase when a Black Templar unit from your army advances. So it doesn't say you have to do it before they advance. It's just when they do. So I imagine you roll the advance, do your advance, and then if you are within range, still use your pistols and charge. Go ahead, use this, you get some pistol shots, but more importantly, you do get closer to charge. So really, really handy for that, and it is one command point. And lastly, you do get your Crusader Relics, which is going to be your extra relics as you usually get in supplement. There isn't as many as there are in the other supplements, but there is a few here. The one that really stood out to me was Witch Seeker Bolts. Select one bolt weapon this model is equipped with, see Codex Space Marines. When the bearer shoots with that weapon, you can choose for it to fire a Witch Seeker round. If you do, you can only make one attack with that weapon, but that attack can target a Psyker character, even if it's not the closest enemy unit. When resolving an attack made a Witch Seeker round against a Psyker unit, if it hits, score the target. If a hit is scored, the target suffers D3 wounds in addition to any other damage. So a solid way to basically, if you're against Psyker armies, or even Psykers kicking about, to just put in a lot more mortal wounds. And I think that one's actually a pretty solid shout. So, and then you also have tactical objectives and name generation. So to summarise Black Templar, this is a tricky one, one of the trickiest chapters to look at. Marines as a force has become very focused on shooting, especially with Primaris. Or if you are going to go to combat, speed is essential. Black Templars want to be in combat, but they don't have the speed aspect to really go with it. And I think that really makes a big impact when it comes to Marine forces to go, we want to push you towards combat, but we're not going to really push the speed aspect of it. Maybe people might find combination this to make a difference, but so far I'm a bit disappointed in Black Templars. But that's coming off the back of a very, very successful Space Marine Codex, and the supplements themselves also being very, very good in terms of the flavour and options that they offered with them. I just think that Space Marine Codex does not focus on what makes Black Templars good, which is combat. And I don't know, but I just feel a little bit let down when it comes to Black Templars, but I'll maybe speak about a summary at the end, what I think that maybe could do to improve them. So, with that, let's go on to Chaos. Now, this is where it is at, guys. Let's just go into it. Let's be honest and upfront with this one, is that, of course, I'm pretty sure we all know by now, the Legion rules are not being, fixed, and they are also not, they're not getting changed, which many people are hoping for, and they are not getting, vehicles are not being affected by them, which, you're now seeing Space Marine Codex, etc., etc. Basically, they are staying the same. Other big rumour, I think, was cult units are getting extra wounds. As far as I can see, that is not the case. So, with that, there is still a very big foundational problem when it comes to Chaos Space Marines that is still upsetting people quite a lot. And, I don't want to focus on that much. I want to focus on what's in the book. Now, when I wrote this section, wrote this part, I was like, I'm going to have to speak on that one. But I promise you, everything in this is game-changing in terms of many forces wish they probably had relics and stratagems especially that work as well as these, and my goodness, some of them do work well. So in terms of when you open the book, you do see a chapter here on Champions of Ruin, and basically it is just summarising many of the FAQ stuff, which is malicious volley, which is essentially a bolter drill rule. It's there in the codex. It's got updated weaponry, which is demolition cannon, has been updated. It's got hateful assault in there as well, which is your essential, if you're charged, wear charged, or perform heroic intervention, you get +1 attack. And then we've got demon weapons, which is basically relics, but they're more dangerous. And I really like demon weapons. I wanted them back because I thought they added a bit of variety. They've maybe not added as many as I'd hoped, mainly because, they've only got about 5 here, one for each of the Chaos Gods, because marks matter, and one that is essentially for Undivided. It doesn't mention that you need to be any of the marks of Chaos, which is all fine. But there is one highlight when it comes to demon weapons. One very, very interesting highlight. So we have, I'm going to try and pronounce this, Q, AK, the Boundless. We'll call it the Boundless because that'll make my life a lot easier. Tzeentch model with Power Sword, Hellforged Sword, or Force Sword only. And I believe the Hellforged Sword is Demon Prince, keep that in mind. This relic replaces a Power Sword, Hellforged Sword, or Force Sword that has the following profile. Melee, Strength User, -3 AP and D3 damage. So on top of like a Power Sword or anything, that's already improvement on the damage, which is great. When resolving an attack made with this weapon, invulnerable saves cannot be made. Now, on a Demon Prince, that could potentially very much hurt. I think there's going to be some... Now, when you use a demon weapon, essentially it's just before they fight, they roll a d6 on a 1, they suffer mortal wound and can't use the weapon further that phase. But on a 2, they can use the weapon as normal. That weapon, being able to ignore invul saves on a Demon Prince, could be very, very dangerous. And I'm very, very intrigued to see what people think of that one. I think there's other ones there. The Corn one's quite nice, etc. Yeah, there's okay ones, but that one that ignores invul. Keep in mind that's for Tzeentch ones. So obviously World Eaters and Emperor's Children are not going to be affected by this. But there might be some good combinations with the other forces who can be the mark of Tzeentch, for instance. that will be, yeah, might be quite interesting. So, in terms of this, is where I'm going to spend the majority of this segment, is really going to be discussing each of the legions and key parts. Now, originally I was like, you know, bit tricky here, you know, so this is looking awesome, but the painful side is this is not comparative to Space Marines. That's the painful truth here, and here's why. They got more in their supplements. Each getting a psychic chart, we do not. You do get less stratagems and you do get less relics. This is annoying a lot of Chaos players, and I get it. I'm annoyed as well. However, keep in mind, this is probably more in the style of Vigilus Ablaze, making them more like Renegades, how they wrote the Renegades in Vigilus Ablaze. It's following a very similar format to that in a way. But just generally a bit more full. And keep in mind that there's many other forces who would kill for this alone, such as Tau Necrons, who have nothing. You know, they have their codex and, you know, obviously their Forge World stuff, and then that's kind of it. So, you know, what I'm trying to say is that, you know, it's nice to have these stuff, and I promise you, what they have given you is quality, which is excellent. So, with all that talk and everything saying, you're not getting that, you're not getting this, I've got to back up these points then. So what you do get is you get, for things like word bearers, etc., you get, you know, your warlord traits, your stratagems, and artifacts of the word bearers, and goes on so forth. So I'm going to try and run through each of the legions, try and highlight the key ones that are really justifying my points here. And I'll try and keep this quick, but there is a lot, because there's so many good stuff, I swear. Even when I read the word bearers, when I was like, the legion's not so great, but some of their stuff is awesome. So let's go. Warlord traits. Exalted Possession. This warlord gains the possessed and demon keyword if they don't already have them. Add 1 to strength and attack characteristics of this model, and add 1 to the warlord's move characteristics. So straight up on a demon prince, that's going to be excellent. Extra strength means that you're pretty much going to easily get, you're pretty much going to get onto your strength 8, which I always say is absolutely essential. And extra attack is good, and extra movement, fantastic. Sacrilegious regeneration, add 1 to the warlord's wound characteristics, so more survivability. And at the start of your turn, this warlord regains D3 lost wounds. So demon princes are not the easiest to take down, sometimes take a wee bit of time. Having an extra wound and regeneration is going to keep them in the fight even longer, which is always useful. In terms of stratagems that are good, we have Malevolent Covenant. Use a stratagem in your psychic phase after a word bearer psyker unit from your army fails a psychic test. This power is automatically manifested by that psyker unit at the minimum required warp charge value and without double having been rolled, and cannot be resisted by deny the witch attempts either. After resolving the effects of the psychic power, that psyker suffers 1 mortal wound, 1 command point. So it's 1 command point and 1 mortal wound, for if you fail that psychic ability, you are guaranteeing that it does succeed and it can't be resisted either. I think that's really good. There may be psychic abilities you're like, I need this to work, I need warp time to work. Fail it, no problem. So in a command point, I'll take a wound and it works, and you do make a very necessary movement. So that is very, very good if you are psyker heavy. And the fact is that it's when it fails, you don't have to, you know, you can roll beforehand and get a good dice roll anyway. So that's really, really good for 1 command point. We then have Revered Hosts. Where's that one? Revered Host. Use a stratagem in the fight phase when a word bearer possessed unit or word bearer's greater possessed unit from your army is chosen to fight with. Until the end of the phase, add 1 to damage characteristics of melee weapons models in the unit are equipped with. Adding more damage on possessed. So in this 1 command point, adding more damage to possessed can be quite nice. They are a tricky unit to use in and itself because they've got random amount of attacks. But you know, use the stratagem in the fight phase when a word bearer unit from your army is chosen to fight. Adding, you don't know how many attacks you're going to get, but you know they are going to hit pretty darn hard. So I think that's not bad for 1 command point. A full retinue, a full squad of possessed charging, this could be potentially very, very damaging, especially if you get that lovely, 3 attacks per model, I think it is. That would be really, really good. Next up we have Hexagrammic Ward, 1 command point. Use this stratagem in any phase after making a saving throw for word bearer character model from your army. Treat the result of the saving throw as a 6. Each word bearer's character model from your army can only be the target of this stratagem once per battle. One command point, you go, oh goodness, I've been hit by something horrendously hard. That's going to hurt. I failed my saving throw. One command point. I got a 6, it's fine, let's move on. That's an interesting one. Wow. I know many forces would kill for something like that. That just gives a whole bunch of survivability and interest in that one. It's really, really cool. Artifacts, we're going to go with Crown of the Blasphemer. Prove the invulnerable save of the model with this relic by 1 to a maximum of 3+. Subtracts 1 from leadership characteristics of models in the unit whilst they are within 6 inches of the model. So essentially you can get a 3-up invul on your Chaos Lords, or I think 4-up invul on most of your Demon Princes. Great, fine, Crown of Blasphemer. Pretty darn good. Baleful Icon. When a charge roll is made for a charge declared against a friendly word bearer's unit within 6 inches of a model with this relic, subtract 2 from the result. So say you've got a gun line of word bearers in the backgrounds, and your artifact is there, and then your opponent drops in, tries to charge them. Well, you're going to make that charge a lot more difficult. -2 to the result. Really good. I think that can really cause a bit of problems. Right, I've got so much to go on, by the way, there's loads. Book of the Reviler. Model that is not a demon only, it's not for demon princes. Before the battle, a model with this relic can read from the Book of the Reviler. If it does, randomly generate 2 Chaos Boons from that model from the table found in the Chaos Boon stratagem. See Chaos Space Marines, reroll Spondum and Demonhood, and duplicate results. Note that this does not cost any command points. An enemy character, vehicle, monster does not have to be destroyed. It's fun. You know, the Chaos Boon table used to be something that was really, really cool, something that you'd roll on a lot. Now, not so much. So this gives you a wee bit of interest, a wee bit of fun, which I think is quite cool. Then we have Ashen Axe. Model with chain axe only. This relic replaces a chain axe and has the following profile. Melee, +1 strength, -2 AP, and D3 damage. Enemy units within 1 inch of this relic cannot fall back unless they have the vehicle or titanic keyword or have a minimum move characteristic. So, I mean, it just means or have a minimum move characteristic. I mean, I presume that must mean flyers, etc. So, I mean, that just means you're going to trap people in combat, hold them in there, infantry, vehicles, monsters, cavalry, whatever. If they try and fall back, it's not going to happen. Wow. Many people would kill for that ability. It's like witches, I think, for Dark Elder. Your opponent rolls, but you just trap them there. That's a fantastic relic. Really, really good. So in terms of word bearers, yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there. That's really, really good. Next up is Night Lords, which I'd probably say is one of the weaker ones, but there's still loads to go off on this one. So Warlord Traits, one with the shadows. When resolving an attack, that's a confusing worded one, so bear with me. When resolving an attack made against this warlord whilst they are entirely on or within a terrain feature, add 1 to the saving throw, excluding invulnerable saving throws. So I think that's just adding an extra 1 to your save, essentially giving you +2 when in terrains. While this warlord is entirely on or within terrain features, improve its invulnerable save by 1 to a maximum of 3+, e.g. 4-up invul becomes 3+. So that just adds a whole bunch of survivability as well, and it keeps you in stalking in terrains. Very, very fluffy, very, very cool. We also have Dirty Fighter. While there are more friendly models in 3 inches of this warlord than enemy models, when resolving an attack made with this melee weapons by the warlord, add 1 to wound rolls. And I always say if there's anything that adds to wound rolls, it is very, very good. Chaos Space Marines certainly do have more ability to augment wound rolls than their loyalist counterparts, and for that I am very, very thankful. Stratagems we have in Midnight Clad, which I'm pretty sure is just from the main rulebook, main codex. Use stratagem in your opponent's shooting phase when a Night Lord infantry unit from your army is targeted by a shooting attack. Until the end of the phase, when resolving an attack against the unit, subtract 1 from the hit roll. Might not be from the main codex, might be from Vigilus or something. But essentially it's almost like, you know, lightning fast reflexes, but not as good. think it's slightly better. But 1 command point to go, well, when you shoot this unit, it's -1 to hit. For 1 command point, pretty good. We then have Vox Scream, 2 command points. Use a stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Select one enemy unit within 18 inches of a Night Lord unit from your army until the start of your next movement phase. Enemy units cannot be affected by any of the selected units or abilities. So an 18-inch sort of shutdown of units' abilities or aura ones. That may be very good. There may be complete buff characters who are being an absolute pain. Space Marines Chapter Master ability. Nope, no rerolls for your entire force there. Using that against David might be very essential. So yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Prey on the Weak. Use the stratagem in the shooting phase or the fight phase when a Night Lord unit from your army is chosen to shoot or fight with. Until the end of the phase, when resolving an attack made by a model in that unit against an enemy unit whose models have a lower leadership characteristic than the attacking model, add 1 to hit rolls. Essentially, if you do, shoot until the end of that phase, use the shooting phase or fight phase. If you do attacks against them and they've got a lower leadership, which Space Marines are quite brave. I mean, like, you'd be looking at things like maybe Tau, Astra Militarum, maybe AdMech, etc. Make sure you know what leadership is first. It's a quick way to get +1 to hit, which is always kind of nice to have. It does have many different ways getting about it. It's all about leadership, but essentially it's +1 to hit, which is really nice. What's the next one? We have Come For You. Use the stratagem at the start of your opponent's moon phase. Select one Night Lord unit from your army that is not a vehicle. Until the start of the next turn, enemy units within 1 inch of that unit cannot fall back unless they have the vehicle or titanic rule of a minimum move characteristic. So again, that's similar to the Relic when it came to Wordbearers, is that it's finding that it's 1 command point, finding a way to keep your opponent in combat. So it's just basically like, no. You maybe plan to fall back and absolutely pummel the unit that's in combat with you. You'd go, nope, you can't. Essentially, we're going to stay in combat, and that is really going to annoy your opponent, forcing them to lose around the shooting on fighting this unit. You may then wipe them out, and then in your turn charge again. And I think that's very powerful. Next up, we have Raptor Strike, 1 command point. Use the stratagem in the charge phase before making a charge roll for Night Lord's jump pack unit from your army that was set up on the battlefield as reinforcements this turn. Roll 3d6 for the charge instead of 2d6. Could be wrong, but I think, Blood Angels have something very similar, but 1 command point, absolutely excellent, and I think Night Lords badly needed that one. So yeah, very nice to see. In terms of artifacts, we have Talons of the Night Terror. So this one isn't actually very good, but how it's described is these are worn over a pair of boots. The talons give the wielder the appearance of the Eldritch Raptor beast that has evolved to better disembowel prey. I'm not going to talk about its rules because rules aren't very cool, but the fact that the weapon or the relic is essentially talons in the boots, I thought was awesome. In terms of rule, it's like +1 strength, -1 AP, 1 damage, and it makes an additional attacks with them, and it's okay, but it's not the best. It's just really cool in terms of what it's written. Scourging Chains improve the armor characteristic of melee weapons a model with this relic is equipped with by 1, e.g. AP 0 becomes AP -1. Subtract 1 from attack characteristics to a minimum of 1 of enemy models within 1 inch of a model with this relic. So this is quite cool in this one. It's just straight up augmenting the AP. It doesn't replace a weapon, so it essentially gives you -1 AP on one weapon. So things that maybe have strong strength, good damage, but bad AP, this would really help. And it stops your opponent from getting as many attacks. If you're fighting a bunch of people like Terminators and go, right, all those Terminators, they're only getting 1 attack, not 2. That's pretty darn good. And next up we have Misery of the Meek. Once per battle at the start of the movement phase, a model with this relic can drink from the Misery of the Meek. The model immediately regains up to D6 lost wounds, and until the start of your next turn adds D3 to the model's attack characteristics. Perfect for a Demon Prince, being able to, if it takes a huge amount of punishment, and you go, right, I'm going to drink this, at the start of your movement phase, and get a whole bunch of wounds back, hopefully, and also additional attacks. What more could you want? So I think that adds a good deal of survivability. Next up, we'll look at Alpha Legion. So their Warlord Traits, there's only one. They do have I am Alpha RS, which is cool, but one that really stood out to me was Faceless Commander. Once per battle at the end of your movement phase, you can remove this Warlord from your battlefield and set up again within 3 inches of a friendly Alpha Legion infantry unit, more than 9 inches away from enemy models. So that is a good teleportation of your Warlord, able to relocate them in case they're in danger, as long as they're near another Alpha Legion unit. Very Alpha Legion ability to go with. Stratagem. Now, I believe the stratagems here were absolutely solid. We've got obviously forward operatives, which we all know, the updated version of it. Absolutely great, so that's fantastic to have. We have Conceal, 2 command points. Use the stratagem at the start of your opponent's shooting phase. Select 1 Alpha Legion infantry from your army. Until the end of the phase, any models can only target that unit if it is the closest visible target. I think that's taken straight out from the Death Guard Codex, but still very nice to have it there, and it is very Alpha Legion to go with. We then have Scrambled Coordinates, which is use the stratagem in your opponent's movement phase. When an enemy unit is set up on the battlefield as reinforcements, but before it is placed on the battlefield, the unit must be set up more than 12 inches away from Alpha Legion units from your army, rather than 9 inches. 1 command point. So that's really good. Your opponent dropping in a unit is going to, I'm going to charge, disrupt, have all this stuff, and you go, well, too bad. You're setting up that unit, set them up 12 inches away, not 9 inches away. And I believe they have to be over 12 inches away, and even if they've got like a 3d6 charge or anything, if they are not within 12 inches, they can't declare the charge. There might be an FAQ on that, but I believe that is the case. So that can be really disruptive to opponents' plans. I know Blood Angels who'd absolutely hate that. So that was a really good ability right there. Renaissance Infiltration. Yep. Use this stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Select 1 Alpha Legion infantry unit from your army that is more than 3 inches away from an enemy model. You cannot select a unit that arrived as reinforcements this turn. Remove that unit from the battlefield. At the end of your next movement phase, set up that unit on the battlefield again, anywhere that is more than 9 inches away from enemy models. Any models that cannot be set up in this way are destroyed. If the battle ends before the unit is set up back in, is destroyed. Yeah, that just allows you to really redeploy a unit midway through the battle. Obviously, you take them away at the end of your rounds and then reposition them next time. Very good. It also means your opponent can't really target them. So it's like, aha, they're gone for now. Obviously, you don't get them in shooting phase and then they appear later on. Yeah, I can dig it. Allows you to maybe do that in your first turn and then appear right by your opponent's edge. You're giving you maybe another deep strike on that one. But generally not bad. I think that's quite a cool one to have. It's only 1 command point as well. We then have Ambush. Use the stratagem in your opponent's movement phase after an enemy unit is set up on the battlefield as reinforcements. Select 1 Alpha Legion unit from your army within 18 inches of that unit. Shoot at that unit as if it was a shooting phase. 2 command points. I believe that's the exact same as Auspex Scan, but without the -1 to hit. So yeah, maybe we do get things better than Space Marines, but not by much. And then we also have Feigned Retreat. Use the stratagem in your movement phase when you fall back with an Alpha Legion unit from your army. This unit can still shoot this turn. 1 command point. So if you get charged and you're like, I'm being hampered down on that one, you can still fall back and still shoot. Very handy on, now I believe it can be done on vehicles or anything like that. So yeah, very handy. In terms of relics that stood out, we have the Mind Veil. Now, I don't rate it, it's too unreliable, but it was nice to see it again because I think it was in the Traitor Legion book way back when, I think 2016 when that came out. So good to see it actually reappear. We have the Hydra's Wail. Once per battle, at the start of the battle round, if a model with this relic is on the battlefield, it can activate the Hydra's Wail. Until the end, this is good. Until the end of the battle round, when your opponent spends a command point to use a stratagem, roll 1d6. On a 4+, your opponent must spend 1 extra command point to use the stratagem. Now, this is a relic many people would kill for. Absolutely. I know many people who they pray for first turn and then they're going to unleash their grand plan of command points. Looking at you, Rob, and your AdMech, but usually you have plenty to spare either way. This is a good way to possibly force your opponent to spend extra ones, which will really annoy them or very much unnerve them. If you know your opponent's going to spend a lot of command points in the first turn, this is definitely a relic to take. Let's move on to Iron Warriors, and if I remember rightly, Iron Warriors were a big winner in this. So in terms of Warlord traits, we have Demon Smith. When resolving an attack made by a model in a friendly Iron Warriors Demon Engine or Iron Warriors Call of Destruction unit within 6 inches of the Warlord, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores 1 additional hit. So that's an interesting one, you know, when you're doing your shooting and everything with your, I suppose it would be your Obliterators, maybe Defiler or stuff like that. And, or maybe, you know, if you stuck this on, say, your Lord Discordant charging up with Mauler Fiends, I think it would work in there as well in combat. You score an extra hit on unmodified rolls of 6. It's not that you would roll to get another hit, it's that you score an additional one. And that is quite crazy in on itself. And I think that can lead to some really good combinations. Obviously it's unmodified, but maybe with rerolls, that can be a heck of a lot of fun. I think that's actually very, very solid. Bastion, which I'm not going to lie, I'm going to summarise it as, you know, it's, well, it's essentially stolen straight from what the Imperial Fist one is from their codex and then their supplement, which is the armour penetration one. I don't like it, I never liked it when it was the original one, but it's just interesting they went, ah, I see what you've done there. It's essentially the 8, same as that one, but stolen straight from the Imperial Fist because why not? Iron Warriors. Siege Master. When resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon by a model in a friendly Iron Warrior Havocs or Iron Warriors vehicle unit within 6 inches Warlord, reroll wound rolls of 1. I think this is in Vigilus Ablaze. You've got to spend points on it to actually unlock it, but wow, being able to reroll wound rolls obviously is very handy. But if you can imagine this was on, say, you know, a Chaos Lord who already allowed you know, reroll hits rolls of 1. But then you also have him backlined with a bunch of Havocs, a bunch of Iron Warrior vehicles, and he's allowing them to reroll wound rolls of 1 as well. That is a very good, easy combination there, and I like it. Stoic Advance. Friendly Iron Warrior units do not suffer the penalty for moving and firing heavy weapons while they're within 6 inches of Warlord. If you're going to be more mobile, then yeah, that can be handy as well. Stratagems, Iron Within, Iron Without. I think it's from the main rulebook, but it's still pretty solid. Use a stratagem in any phase. It's 1 command point. When a model in an Iron Warrior unit from your army would lose a wound, roll a d6 for that wound, and for each other wound that would be lost by a model in that unit until the end of the phase. On a 6, that wound is not lost. 1 command point, it's 6 up, feel no pain. I don't really rate a 6 up, feel no pain. It's okay, I don't think you're going to see that many, but it's okay to keep in mind on that one. Methodical Annihilation. Oh yeah, here we go. 1 command point. Use the stratagem in your shooting phase when an Iron Warrior unit from your army is chosen to shoot. Select one of the following unit, effects to last until the end of the phase. When resolving an attack made by a model in that unit, you can re-roll the damage result. Or you can re-roll any or all of the dice to determine the type characteristic of models that of weapons that model in that unit are equipped with. I think a lot of people are going to see the potential when it's 1 command point of re-rolling the damage result. Simply put, if you have a lot of things that do multiple damage, etc., that's going to be very, very interesting. I think many people are going to find a lot of fun combinations for that one. Next up we have Dour Duty. Use the stratagem in your opponent's shooting phase or charge phase when an Iron Warrior unit from your army is chosen as a target of an attack. Till the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon against this unit, worsen the armor penetration characteristic of that weapon by 1, e.g. AP -1 becomes AP 0. So it gives you a good 1 command point, gives a good bit of defensive abilities for Iron Warriors. Just if something with not bad AP comes in, you can really reduce it and create a lot more survivability. Unholy Vigor, 1 command point. Use the stratagem at the start of your movement phase. Select 1 Iron Warrior vehicle model from your army. That model regains up to 3 lost wounds. A straight up 3 wounds brought back in a vehicle could be the difference of hitting far more efficiently. So yeah, or just, you know, getting back up to being a more reliable vehicle. Yeah, that's absolutely great for 1 command point. It's not one I'd bank on, but certainly one that will definitely, for that cost, see use. We then have Tank Hunters. 1 command point. Use the stratagem in your shooting phase or the fight phase when you choose Iron Warriors from your army, excluding Chaos Cultists, to shoot or fight with. Select one enemy vehicle unit. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made by a model in the Iron Warriors unit against the selected unit, you can reroll the wound result, the roll to wound. I mean, being able to reroll all wounds against a certain, vehicle of your choice. Now that's just asking for knights to really suffer quite a bit of punishment from various things. I think that is, for one command point, criminal. But being able to reroll wounds, absolutely love it. Rampant Technovirus. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase or one command point or fight phase when you select an Iron Warriors Obliterators or Iron Warriors Mutilators unit from your army to shoot or fight with. Till the end of that phase, you can reroll any of the or all of the D3 rolls made for flesh metal guns or flesh metal weapon ability. I've been dying for them to introduce this stratagem. Very, very useful. Simply because I think obliterators are pretty good, but you always end up spending one command point doing at least one reroll, and even then you could be let down by further rerolls down the line. One command point really gives you 3 rerolls there to really give you a bit more peace of mind. I think that's heavily worth it. I think if you maybe combined it with tank hunters, that is going to be absolutely brutal. So yeah, I think there's going to be some really dangerous combinations with that one there. Next up we have Cannon Fodder. Use a stratagem at the start of your opponent's shooting phase. Select one Iron Warriors infantry unit from your army and then select one friendly Iron Warriors Chaos Cultist unit wholly within 6 inches of that unit. Until the end of the phase, the enemy models cannot target the Iron Warriors infantry unit if the selected Iron Warriors Chaos Cultist unit is closer visible target. Taking a wee bit from the Orcs side there, I think it's a wee bit better on their one. It's 2 command points. I just like the idea that, Iron Warriors use cannon fodder. I think that's really cool and very, very much like Iron Warriors. In terms of relics, we have the Insidium. A model with this relic gains a demon keyword if it does not already have it, and adds 1 to its strength, toughness and wound characteristics of that model. Straight up on a demon prince, that is going to give your almighty strength 8, and also toughness, which I think it brings up to toughness 7, which is okay, not great. I'd love it to be toughness 8, but can also get you 1, but an additional wound as well. I think that brings it to 9 wounds, so it's still not at that 10 wounds, thank goodness, because otherwise it would be targetable. So good, very, very good in that one. Strength, toughness and wound, excellent. Axe of the Forge Master. Models for this power axe or demonic axe only. This relic replaces a power axe or demonic axe and has the following profile: melee, +3 strength, -3 AP, or 2 damage. So it's a good bit of strength, good bit of AP, good bit of damage. When resolving an attack with this weapon against a vehicle unit, a unmodified hit roll inflicts D3 mortal wounds on the target in addition to normal damage. So that could be quite deadly, adding, not only to the 2 damage from the Axe of the Forge Master, but also mortal wounds on top of it. I could certainly see us in dropping in with a Demon Prince. That makes them essentially strength 10, with -3 AP and then 2 damage. But then they're going to absolutely wail on vehicles like no tomorrow if they get that 5+ for D3 extra mortal wounds. Very, very good on that one. Right, next up we're going to go on to Emperor's Children, which were obviously a big favourite before this came out. So let's go into Warlord Traits. Stimulated by Pain. Look, it's straight up from the book before. You know it, you love it, it's pretty handy. Unbound Arrogance. When you choose this warlord to fight with, you and your opponent secretly choose a number from 1 to 3 on a d6. We suggest turning the d6 to show the number, but conceal this behind your hand. Then reveal your choice simultaneously. If the chosen numbers differ, the warlord can make a number of additional attacks that fight sequence equal to the number you chose. So you can play with your opponent this one and be like, we now have to choose dice. Do I play it safe with 1 and see if you combine, and then only get 1 extra attack? Do I maybe go with 2, and I get 2 because you're scared of me getting 3, or do I go big and get 3? Who knows? Your opponent has to decide as well. Do they go safe by going 2 and then they're like, that's what you think, but really you went big with 3, or you just went small with 1? I think that's a good bit of mind games, and I really like that one, that Unbound Arrogance. I think that is quite good. Flawless Duelist. At the start of the fight phase, roll 1d3 until the end of the phase. Subtract the result from the attack characteristics of enemy models to a minimum of 1 while still within 1 inch of this ward. Yeah, so that can remove a lot of attacks from opponents. At the start of fight phase, roll a d3 until the end of phase, subtract the result from attack characteristics of enemy models. It's not just, I thought it was only one, but it's multiple models. That can really, you know, to a minimum 1, that can really hamper a big unit charging in, and then it's like orcs, they've all got those attacks, and then you're like, nope, 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 nope. None of that. None of that. That's how many ones you're going to lose. Oh, that could be good against hordes. Be a right pain. So yeah, that's quite good. Loathsome Grace. When a charge roll is made for this warlord, you can re-roll the dice. If this warlord makes a charge move or performs heroic intervention, add 1 to strength and attack characteristic until the end of subsequent fight phase. Straight up in a DM Prince, gives you that +1 strength, strength 8, nice, and an extra attack. And you can re-roll charge. Pretty darn awesome. In terms of stratagems, we have combat elixirs, straight up buff to stats, so we'll talk about 2 command points. Use a stratagem before the battle. Select 1 Emperor Children unit from your army that is not a vehicle or cultist unit, or chaos cultist, then select one of the following effects to apply to the model in that unit until the end of phase. +1 attack, +1 strength, +2 move characteristic, +1 toughness. Can only be used once per battle. I mean, it's added to a Demon Prince, you've got your +1 attack right there as well. +1 strength, so your strength 8. I mean, beautiful, or go strength 9 if you want to wound knights and things easier. Yeah, really nice for 2 command points, and it's not random, you choose the ability rather than in the past combat drugs used to be quite a random thing. So really nice to have. 1 command point, we're going to go excess of violence. Look, it's the same as before, but it is absolutely reliable. 1 command point. Honour the Prince, use the stratagem in the 1 command point, use the stratagem in the charge phase after making a charge roll for an Emperor's Children Slanesh unit from your army. You can change the result of the d6 roll to, so I'll repeat this one because this one's crazy good. 1 command point, use the stratagem in the charge phase after making a charge roll for Emperor's Children Slanesh unit from your army. You can change the result of one of the d6 rolled to a 6. So you go 2d6 charge, get a 6 and a 1. Failed it, but 1 command point, let's just make that one a 6. Job's good. That's really good. That is absolutely awesome. So many armies would kill for a stratagem like that. That is crazy good and crazy fun. Excruciating Frequencies. 1 command point, use the stratagem in the shooting phase when an Emperor's Children Noise Marine unit from your army is chosen to shoot with. Till the end of the phase, add 1 to strength and damage characteristics of Blastmaster, Sonic Blasters, and Doom Sirens models in that unit they're equipped with. I don't know Noise Marines very well, I don't really use them. David uses them more than me, and even then he's not used Chaos a lot recently. But I know that Noise Marines are actually not bad, and adding 1 to their strength and damage characteristic for 1 command point can only be good. So I think that's going to be really nice. In terms of Relic, there was one that really did stand out here, and that was the Raiment of Revulsion. When resolving an attack made by a model with this relic, you can re-roll the hit roll, you can re-roll the wound roll. When a charge roll is made for a model with this relic, you can re-roll the result. I mean, a relic that allows you to re-roll hit, wound, and charge? You've got to be kidding me on that one. That is way too good. That is way too good. Absolutely awesome, and I can see some scary combinations really coming together here. Finally, we're going to come to World Eaters. So World Eaters, they have got their Warlord Traits, which is going to be Discipline of Corn, which was a good one. When resolving attack, attack made with a melee weapon by this Warlord against an enemy character unit, or unit that contains models with wound characteristics of 5 or more, you can re-roll the hit rolls, and you can re-roll the wound roll. So plenty of ways to get basically re-roll hits and wounds if you're fighting character or things with big wounds. Excellent. Any way to get re-roll wounds is always really well appreciated. Stratagems, Scorn of Sorcery. We talked about this before with Black Templars, which was basically, you know, you're sort of deny the witch one. You had it first, and it's a pretty good one. Really nice for 1 command point. Apocalyptic Frenzy, 1 command point. Use the stratagem during deployment when you set up a World Eater's infantry unit from your army. At the start of the first battle round, but before the first turn begins, you can move that unit up to 9 inches. You cannot end this move with a 9-inch sliding model if both players have it. Essentially it's the Alpha Legion rule, except less sneaky. You know, it's the one where you get to move up 9 inches at the first one, and I think you can do it multiple times. Really, really nice. I like it. It's going to be handy for Khorne Berserkers, but they're probably going to be a Rhino. Yeah, it's the same as the Alpha Legion one, but they're just apocalyptic frenzy. They're just going for it. They're just absolutely crazy. Really, really nice to see on there as well. We have Skulls for the Skull Throne, 1 command point. Use the stratagem in the fight phase when an enemy character model is destroyed as a result of an attack made with a melee weapon by a World Eater's character from your army. Gain D3 to command points. So just spend 1 command point, get D3 back. You might get 1 and you spent nothing, or you might get an R2 back. Really, really handy on that one. Red Butchers, named after the Red Butcher unit from Forge World's unit in 30k. Which I really like in 30k, that all the Space Marine units have like individual units as well, similar to Blood Angels, Death Guard, Thousand Suns, Space Wolves, etc. They actually have their individual units. Red Butchers were the Terminator units, I believe, that were in the Horus Heresy, and this stratagem helps refine it. 2 command points. Use the stratagem before the battle. Select 1 World Eater's Chaos Terminator unit from your army, add 1 to their strength characteristics of the models in that unit, and that unit gains the following: Blood for the Blood God. This unit can fight twice in each fight phase instead of only once. You can only use the stratagem once per battle. Awesome. You know, Terminators, now they can be very, very deadly in combat. They've got plenty of ways. They start with 2 attacks. Adding +1 strength and Blood for the Blood God could make a very, very deadly unit. Quite frankly, this should be just their Cult Terminator unit, similar to how Thousand Sons have Scarab Occult and Death Guard have Blight Lord Terminators, and obviously the Protector ones. For love of me, I forget their name, but obviously I'm going to use them very, very soon because we've almost got Death Guard ready to go, hopefully. But this should just be that when World Eaters eventually get a Codex/supplement, hopefully they'll get Red Butchers and they'll get some really, really nice ones, and that'll be very, very cool. But until then, you've got command points to really try and make that an effect. And I suppose you could probably buy if you've got the money, buy the Forge World units and say they're the Red Butchers, and you'll be all the cooler in my books for actually representing them. It's a good idea, actually. I'll think about that one. Anyway, Wild Fury, 1 command point. Use the stratagem in the fight phase when you select a World Eater's unit from your army to fight with. Till the end of the phase, improve the armor characteristics of melee weapons models in that unit are equipped with by 1. 1 command point to improve AP. I always say if you've got 0 AP, getting to -1 AP is huge. And getting above 3 AP is not really necessary. Usually things have good saves or they've got invulse saves that prevent it. But that just getting a wee bit extra 1 can make a heck of a difference. I know in Khorne Berserkers that could be really, really good for just 1 command point. Stoke the Nails, 1 command point. Use the stratagem in the fight phase when a World Eater's infantry or biker unit from your army that is not a Chaos Cultist is chosen to fight with. Till the end of that phase, that unit's Death to the False Emperor ability takes into effect when targeting any enemy units, not just Imperium. In addition, when targeting Imperium units, this ability takes on a hit roll of 5. 1 command point. Yeah, that's just really cool. Death to the False Emperor ability, people going, oh, only affects Imperium. Well, for 1 command point, you can choose for it to affect other units as well. Yeah, pretty cool as well. It's interesting, I think, you know, Death to False Emperor still at the moment is applicable to buffs. I need to go back and have a look. I believe that if you do add +1 to it, it's 6+ and everything, but this takes into effect on 5+. So yeah, actually it does all work out in that one as well. I was worried I was going to say on rolls of 5, but it's 5+, so it can be modified. So that's fine. Generally, I just think that's really, really cool and makes perfect sense for World Eaters. In terms of artifacts here, we have the Crimson Killer, which is modeled to Plasma Pistol. I don't usually advocate Plasma Pistols or pistols in general, but this one was actually not bad. This relic replaces a Plasma Pistol and has the following profile: 12-inch range, Pistol 1, strength 9, -3 AP, and straight up 3 damage. When resolving an attack made with this weapon, an unmodified roll of 4+ inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target in addition to normal damage. I mean, it's a super charged Plasma Pistol, and it has no chance of hurting you, and if anything, it causes nearly up to 4 damage. I mean, Karn, you need to get your hand on the Crimson Killer, you know, it's a pretty good Plasma Pistol. Gorefather, now I'm not going to explain the rules because we've seen it in Leak already, and quite frankly I was a little bit disappointed by it. You know, it's got -1 to hit. It does have a chance to cause 3 mortal wounds, but that is essentially instead of the damage you cause, and the stats weren't great, but it is the Axe of Angron himself. I'm just a bit disappointed that the stats were not better for it. I was expecting a little bit more, but it's still cool to see the Axe of Angron. I wonder how, I'm pretty sure both these axes got destroyed and Karn remade one. How this one, you know, got about again, I can only imagine it's going to annoy Angron that someone else is wielding it. Helm of Furor. Yep, could be pronounced that wrong. Infantry model only. Add 2 to strength characteristic of a model with this relic. At the start of the charge, if a model with this relic is within 8 inches of an enemy unit, you must declare charge. Straight up add 2 to strength. Can probably lead to some really good combinations to make someone who's super strong and maybe with some crazy stats in there as well. So that's a very interesting one. Usually it's like +1 strength, +1 something else. +2 strength can be quite interesting. Also, if it makes you strength 6, then if you've got like Powerfist or something, it might make you strength 12. I don't know. It might be strength 10 actually. But either way, I think it's actually multiple and then adds. But still, pretty darn good. And then we've got Blood Hunger, which is when an enemy unit is destroyed in the fight phase as a result of attack made by a model with this relic. Roll 1d6. On a 4+, this model with this relic regains up to 1 lost wound. And I believe that's cumulative, you know. So you kill, if you're Demon Prince, you've suffered 4 wounds and you've killed 4 models, then you roll 4 dice and 4 pluses, you're going to get wounds back. Very interesting on Demon Prince. I think that is a pretty darn good one. Do they have a Warlord trait that adds, you know, strength? Not so much. Nope, they don't really, except for the Discipline of Khorne. But I'd say that plus +1 strength bring you to 8. Would be really, really interesting if you had a Khorne one there, a World Eater one there. And you know what? That's it for Psychic Awakening, Faith and Fury. So, I went into a lot of chaos there, but here we go. So if I'm going to summarise in this one. When it comes to Space Marine stuff, it is not an essential one. Painful to say that, but that's the reality of that one. If you want to get the most out of your units, then yeah, sure. Not bad. It does make your HQs a lot more options to them, and maybe people will find some very interesting combinations. I think the Chaplains do have some interesting potential right there. And then if you are Black Templars, then it is a must-have because it is your supplement. As for Chaos, many people are very, 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 very annoyed that they are not updating Legions. And they are not making their Legion rules applicable to vehicles and everything. How that, and I went in with trepidations going, look, some of the stuff I've heard is not bad. I'm going to probably give it like a 6 out of 10. But now coming out from it and have a look at the relics and the stratagems and everything, they are bonkers, they are good, they are useful. I think if this came out before the Space Marine Codex came out, this would be like higher than a 10 out of 10 because it is basically full of the Vigilus Blaze and it adds so much to the Chaos Legions. It's unbelievable. We're only getting a bit of a bitter taste because the Space Marine Codex was so good, but this adds something to the Chaos Forces. Some of the Iron Warrior combinations there are looking absolutely solid and I'm really, really happy about that. I'm still going to give it a high 9.5 out of 10. You know, I don't really want to compare really to the Chaos Space Marine book. I want to look at it as what do we get extra and see if we had all those Chaos Space Marine stuff that are compared to Space Marines. It would be crazy. This would be insane. Chaos would be in a crazy level of good. But I still think this adds so much to Chaos and I'm excited to see where people go with them, where these stratagems, Warlord Traits, Relics really add to the forces and the combinations people can achieve. So that's it for my review of Psychic Awakening, Faith and Fury. Please comment, share, like and subscribe. Are you disappointed by it? I can see some people possibly being, but personally as a Chaos player I'm absolutely delighted by it. And I can only say that every Chaos player 100% should get this. And if you're a Black Templar, yeah, get it as well. And if Space Marine, use it to fill out your army. You already have an absolute best codex, and if you don't have that, you should, because it's amazing. But this does add a lot, and I think they've done a really, really good job, especially in the Chaos part, really making the army so much better. and so much more interesting and really, really good. So I do give it a solid score, because for Chaos it just, and I'm a Chaos fanboy, so I can only say I'm absolutely happy with it. But yeah, I'm very interested to hear what people say. Please comment, share, like and subscribe. Check us out on social media where you can see our upcoming projects. If you can't tell, I am doing a lot of Chaos at the moment, so it's very nice to see this. May influence where I need to paint going forward, but I'm expanding the Chaos very, very much. It's also the first army I've ever painted, and they're absolutely looking not bad. So I'm very, very delighted with that as well. And you can check us out on Patreon as well. Help support the channel, bring you more content, because we absolutely love doing so. So thanks again, and we'll see you on our Tabletop Assaults Battle Report.